Please stand for a moment aside. Salute the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Cranford Chronicle, advertised on January 16, 2015. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and commonly posted on Municipal Public Bulletin Board, and following the office of the Municipal Clerk, informed the public of the time and place according to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Please everyone silence your cell phones. Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilman Matthews.
Here.
Councilman Martin. Sorry, Councilman went out of order. Councilman Martin.
Excused.
Councilman Matthews.
Here.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Here.
Councilman Tarantino.
Excused.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Here.
And Council President Niersted.
Here. Please read the minutes, Ms. Ariano.
Regular meeting of the Mayor and Council held on July 14, 2015, deferred. Executive session of Mayor and Council held on July 14, 2015, deferred. Workshop session of Mayor and Council held on July 14, 2015, deferred.
Ms. Ariano, communications, please.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities Mayor's Advisory.
Received and file.
Bruce Patterson, concerns with DPW shared service agreement.
Received and file.
Anthony Cortez, letter in support of proposed DPW shared service agreement with Fanwood.
Received and file.
I'm going to kill this. Mrs. Mary Swatsy.
Showers.
Okay. And Mr. and Mrs. Patrick Mooney, letter urging council to reconsider change in the DPW.
Received and file. Public hearing on ordinance 15-14 and 15-15 as advertised in the Westfield Leader on July 16, 2015. Ms. Ariano, please read ordinance 15-14 by title only.
Yes, Mayor, in order providing for the compensation of regular police officers of the borough of Garwood.
Have you received any correspondence concerning ordinance 15-14?
None, Mayor.
Does anyone present wish to be heard concerning ordinance 15-14? Mr. Patterson?
Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Little Avenue.
Mr. Patterson?
It's pretty much the normal boilerplate, but I just want to go over some items. It's a fairly large number. It's a little larger than what we normally do annually, but I guess there's a lot of offsetting grants, so I guess that's why the number is being extended. But this is the DOT project. Right?
No, please.
Am I in the
Please,
wrong
sir.
order?
Yep. 15-14.
Right.
Should I
Compensation
mix that
of
up or
regular
do I sit
police
down?
officers.
It's entirely
You
up
have
to
2
you.
minutes.
You have the
I have no
floor.
comment on it. I'm sorry to take your time at this point.
Okay.
That's okay, I know you'll be back. Motion to close public hearing on ordinance 15-14.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 15-14.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 15-14, Mayor.
Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilman Matthews.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
And Council President Niersted.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Ariano, please read ordinance 15-15 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. Bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements in, by, and for the borough of Garwood in the county of Union, state of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $395,000 to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate various grants, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Have you received any correspondence concerning ordinance 15-15?
None, Mayor.
Does anyone present wish to be heard concerning ordinance 15-15? Motion to close public hearing. Oh,
I know one thing, I'm not gonna talk about the police hours.
they carry guns, Bruce, be careful.
Yeah, that first one doesn't count. But anyway, good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Council, Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. You heard my, I guess, my start, so anyway. But this is a DOT project. The number seems a little larger than the other numbers annually. Don's not here, but, oh yeah, Don, where's Don?
He doesn't stay for regular meeting and,
Oh, yeah. I did, of course. But anyway, okay. Moving forward. I see $395,000 you're going to be bonding. I guess short-term notes. Looks like the grants, offsetting grants are $247,000. And then there's a down payment of $7,000, which then I guess leaves what really the debt that the people are gonna owe is $140,000 plus whatever the 10-year interest is. Is that correct?
Yeah, whatever, I mean, there's no guarantee that it's gonna be 10 years, that's typical, but sometimes they get bonded before then, so it's whatever, whatever it is on the notes, the bond anticipation notes until such time as they turn into bonds.
And you can keep rolling them over, actually.
There's a limit, I'm not the finance guy, so I can't tell you what it is, but I'm thinking 10 years is it, then you have the bond.
The down payment, that $7,000, that seems awful low. What do you normally do on a down payment?
5%.
5%?
Yeah.
5%, no.
Right.
All right, how come you did not do 5% then?
It is 5%.
It is.
5% of
140.
140, oh, okay, not the total. All right, I see $215,000 is a grant from the DOT, which makes sense. $30,000 is this new county infrastructure grant for this year, which is good. I was there at the county, and I thank them for the $30,000, although they hit $20 million. But I had to throw that in there. And then $2,500 is for greening Union County, and I guess that goes towards the trees on the street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that what it's for? Okay. All right, that's it. It was just more of a fact finding. So,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion to close public hearing on ordinance 15-15.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 15
We didn't have a vote on the closing the
Oh,
public.
I'm sorry.
All in favor is fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to adopt ordinance 15-15. Roll.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to table this ordinance. I don't think it's worth taking the risk on it not passing.
For a second? Second. Okay, motions to table are not debatable, so it would be time for a roll call.
Roll call.
Councilman Matthew,
No.
Councilman Petrozelli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Tedisco,
Yes.
and Council President Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Council standing committee reports and other reports. Councilman Tarantino, does anybody have a police report for the councilwoman this evening? Okay, moving on, public health, Council President Neerstedt.
No report, Mayor. The next meeting is September 16th.
Thank you. Streets and roads ecology, Councilwoman Tedesco.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Fire, Council President Neerstedt.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, I was quite surprised when my phone went off when I started the Guard Fire Department's call to the fire in North Brunswick. Wow, I said, that's pretty far away. I wondered why they were called. By now, I'm sure that everyone is ready. There was a fire in North Brunswick that destroyed a 1 million square foot warehouse and all its interior goods, everything from clothing to tires. Well over 100 fire units responded. 5 firefighters from Garwood took engine number 3 and represented our borough for over 8 hours, coming back to Garwood in wee hours in the morning when most of us were still sleeping. I want to thank our firefighters who participated in the emergency and those who supported them at home. I stopped by the firehouse on Sunday and volunteers were there once again rolling the hoses, making certain everything was organized properly. I try to make certain I speak about the fire department every week because of their volunteer time and commitment. I want to thank them once again for their time they spent at that fire last week. And that's it for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Any comments from council? Not moving on. Buildings and grounds, Councilman Matthew.
Finance. Mayor, finance.
Sorry.
Finance.
Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met last week with the CFO, Sandy Bruns, to discuss the engineering ideas on how to go about fixing the sewer line at Center and Willow, which he explained to us at our last meeting, considering the recommendation of the engineer and the fact that it's a very old line. It's about 80 to 90 years old. The Finance Committee recommended the council replace the pipe and do the job right, rather than opt for a less inexpensive but riskier option than try to repair it. The engineer feels it would need to bond about $35,000 in order to do the work if the council agrees. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, and so. Okay, Buildings and Grounds, Councilman Matthew.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Laws and License, Councilman Martin. Anybody have a report for Councilman?
No, but Mayor, just to get back to what Councilman Petrozelli brought up, I think we have to make sure the council wants to move forward so that that could be introduced at the next council meeting.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm on finance, so I agree, obviously.
And I would support that too. We had a discussion at the last meeting, as you indicated, and the fact that line is 80 to 90 years old, we line it, we do, to me, patching, it's gonna break again. In the long term, it's gonna cost us more money. So while the 35,000 is the most expensive at this point in time, I think we have to do it. So I would support that also.
Councilman Matthew, you have any reports?
Nope.
Is that now 30 or 35%?
It's
35.
35.
So you direct me to prepare bond ordinance for introduction next council meeting to 35,000, correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
We have no laws and license. Recreation, Councilwoman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick updates. Summer recreation is continuing to go well with over 100 children signed up. Also, the annual Senior Citizen Dinner will be Saturday, August 15th from 12 noon to 4 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus. The theme will be Senior Game Day, and the flyer is up on the borough website. And that's all for my report.
Thank you. Any comments? From the council? Committee on Aging, anybody has a report on that behalf? Mayor's Library Representative, Councilman Petrozelli.
Thank you, Mayor. The 21st Annual Summer Reading Club, everybody, where every hero has a story, is coming to a close. The last day of participants to log into their reading time is August 7th. The Make Your Own Sunday Party is scheduled for August 13th at 3 p.m., where all participants will receive prizes and enjoy some hero-themed photo ops. The top reader will win 4 tickets to Great Adventure Amusement Park. Kids Crafts and Movies will continue through the first week of August on the 5th of August at 10:30 a.m. We will be visited by one of Garwood's finest and his police vehicle at a local hero-themed story time. On August 11th at 10:30, a local author, Laura Sassy, will read her new book, Goodnight Ark, accompanied by her skunk puppets. On August 10th at 2 p.m., the wolves are coming. Representatives from Howling Woods Farm, an animal shelter that rescues wolves and wolf-dog hybrids, will present a slideshow about wolves and wolf conservation. It will be followed by a meet and greet with 2 wolves from the farm. The library is continuing to collect items from the Plainfield Area Humane Society, including cat and dog, food and toys, cleaning supplies, and old towels and blankets. At a recent craft, the children even made shelter cage cushions for the animals in the shelter. The library will be having a small book sale the last 2 weeks of August. Fill up a bag of books for $5. The Garwood Library is open Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4:30, and beginning September 12th, the library will resume its Saturday hours from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The toddler story time will resume on Wednesday, September 16th at 10:30 a.m. The Friday morning movie time will resume on Friday, September 18th. The Thursday book club will continue to meet through the summer on the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. There is no registration required for either of these programs. That's all for my report.
Thank you. Any comment? Move on. School Board Liaison, Councilman Matthew.
No report, Mayor. Next meeting, August the 20th.
Thank you. Celebrations of public events and holidays, Liaison, Council President Neostat.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, everybody, once again, moving on to stars, September 18th at Washington School. The Celebrations Committee meeting, next meeting is September 16th, and that's all for my report.
Thank you. Any comments? Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board Representative, Councilman Matthew.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any report from the Parking Committee? Police Negotiations Committee.
You know, we gotta take that off this time.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay.
Can I take it off next time? Is everybody okay?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Administrative Review Committee.
And we have a report.
Okay. Historical Committee, Councilwoman Tedesco.
No report, Mayor.
Ms. Allen, please read the officers' reports.
Bruce Underhill, Chief of Police, monthly report for the months of May and June 2015. Len DiStefano, Zoning Code Enforcement Officer, monthly report for June 2015.
May I have a motion to accept the officers' report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, sign in, and state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Judy Sparrow, 633 Myrtle Avenue. I just have a question. You had said that Fanwood and Garwood were very similar, correct? They were very similar, we're in the same towns, and you wanted to go with Fanwood because shared services because we're similar. That's correct, right? Okay, then how come since 2010, Fanwood has been on the county dispatch and you rejected county dispatch? We would be saving over, looking at the salaries, $138,000 a year just with salaries, not counting benefits. So if it's good for Fanwood, why wasn't it good for Garwood when we're similar, we're the exact same town, so to speak? Have any answers?
I can take them. I was on that committee.
Sure.
Dealt with the dispatch. Yes, I was on the committee, as was Councilman Petrozelli, looking at county dispatch. We also visited Westfield. At the time, we did not feel that it was fitting for Garwood. One of the outlays, or one of the reasons was there was a tremendous capital outlay that would need to be made in order to basically have our system compatible with the county or with Westfield, whichever way we went. And it was just determined that by that committee that it didn't make sense at that time. And basically, although we are similar, I would say Fanwood in a lot of ways is similar to Garwood more so than Cranford or Westfield based on size. Of course, I don't believe we should do everything the exact same. That's my comments on that.
If I could just respond to that, Mrs. Sparrow, I just have, that's not my recollection at all. If I could just say, I don't remember any capital outlay being discussed at all. What I understood at that time was we discovered that our dispatchers also performed administrative tasks for the police. And that they were doubling basically as admins for the police. And that because we had such a small police force, that they were basically the only people that would kind of man the post there in the absence of officers on call or supervising officers on call. So that was really my recollection. I don't remember anything about capital outlay. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to just subscribe to the county dispatch. We most definitely would have saved money had we not then had to go and hire administrative personnel for the police. So that was my recollection.
And I would concur with Councilman Matthew, that was another factor as well. Third factor was the dispatch serving as a way to keep Borough Hall open in the sense that there's someone here in the building when you knock on the door, basically, they're the first line into Borough Hall. And Chief, do you want to comment on the Capitol? I distinctly remember that being an additional factor as well.
Yes, we would have to send radio equipment and other equipment over to wherever we go. We still have to maintain our equipment here as well. So there's an outlay in equipment and radios and so forth that have to be supplied to whoever might possibly pick us up.
Yeah, and I mean, now that everything's coming back to me, I also remember when we did visit Fanwood, they also talked about how they had to put an alarm system in the building as well, because the building was pretty much vacant at night. So basically at, 4:30, 5 o'clock, when everybody left the building, the only people that would be in the building, would actually be, the police officers, and if someone needed something, then someone actually has to press a button, it goes down to the county, the county radios to one of the cars to actually come back to the building, which actually takes one of the officers off the road as well to, deal with, somebody who's at the building, in which they really can't do anything, because if it's to get any type of an incident report or anything like that, they wouldn't be able to do it at that time anyway, so that person would have to come back. But the whole thing was, when I visited, when I actually pressed the button, it took a few minutes for the county actually, to respond, and you're speaking to a microphone, and that's about it. So it wasn't a very impressive security feel that I got, knowing that you're standing outside the building when it was 9 o'clock at night, and there's nobody around it. So, there was that other factor, whereas there's always somebody here, our dispatch is always at the desk.
I believe the county's contract also called for 2% increases every year.
And it was only a 3-year contract, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Rich Bonfanti, 342nd Avenue. A couple things. One, the last meeting, Councilwoman Tarantino stated that the overflow of cars at St. Anne's, there was a negotiation with, not St. Anne's, I'm sorry, the senior building, the new senior building. The overflow was gonna go to St. Anne's parking lot. At the planning board meeting the other night, they were applying for, Bill knows, variance, or I guess a variance for their building. And they stated that no one has been in touch with them at all about parking.
As you know, I was at the planning board meeting also, and I said that Councilman Tarantino did reach out to him, and Father said, you remember that some young lady called, and he didn't remember what she was talking about in general, but she was talking about the park. And I also mentioned to you that she never said that she got spaces from St. Anne's. Because as you know, from the lawyer of the archdiocese, they're not allowed to have that.
Well, there's cars parked there all the time.
Right,
You know,
I'm not gonna
So-
argue with you, I'm just trying to say.
But the fact that, now, what are we gonna do with the senior building? The fact that we have already 4 cars over, plus there's another 12 people that didn't.
It's still a possibility, they haven't clarified that number yet.
That's what she said last week.
She
You
was
said that
waiting
last
for the
week.
final entries into the building, and then we'll find out. It's
Yeah,
a possibility.
if there's
yeah.
more,
Yeah.
but they're already over,
5.
5. Plus visitors and workers, we're right back to square one with parking on the street. This is something that should have been thought about before this building was built. But, you passed it through, same thing, and the residents get stuck.
Well, actually, this body doesn't pass it. They have to go to site plan approval to the planning board, and that's where the hearing was, and that's where the parking requirements and all that are discussed. The governing body never approved of the site plan.
Well, they were involved in that senior building, going there.
They were involved in approving of a senior building going on that site, yes.
Yeah, and voting on the tax exempt status.
And on voting on the
Right.
tax exempt status of the building, that's correct, but not on the site plan.
And
Mr. Matthew, good night, the
Okay.
board is speaking at this point.
can I reply to
Yeah,
that?
let the lawyers speak, you go right ahead.
And I would just add in that when site plan approval is done, for example, under the residential site improvement standards, you're allowed to consider on-site parking, on-street parking, so that where there is on-street parking available, an applicant is allowed to reduce the parking provided on-site. The idea is not to put in parking that isn't required. I don't know if the board considered that, and I don't want to suggest that it did, but available parking for any residential development includes the parking that's available on the street in connection with the development. It's not just what's in the parking lot.
Okay.
If I could just reply to Mr. Bonfanti, Mayor. You're absolutely correct. We did vote on aspects of the project, particularly the tax exempt status. And I stand here before you and say, no one brought this up here, including me. and I take responsibility for that. Okay, we're never responsible for anything. I take responsibility for that. I was not aware about how bad the parking situation was. There were things we could have done about it, Mr. Bonfanti. You're quite right, we did not do that.
It's not a problem now.
Mr. Bonifanti, Mr. Mayor, I've been on record 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and I'll say it again. Mr. Bonifanti, you and I both know that not everybody's in here yet, so the numbers right now don't really mean too much yet. I mean, I've walked through that site a number of times. I have not seen more than 5 cars parked in that parking lot. Beyond that, I can only say, and as I already said, Mrs. Vaccaro, that they are not moved in yet. That was the first thing I said. Okay? So right now, we can't say too much in terms of people in and parking, what have you. But Mr. Renaud mentioned residential site improvement standards. Those are the standards adopted by the state for parking, not just for Garwood. Those are state standards. If you go through them, I can go on record as stating it's page 59. Had parking standards for that type of development is 1 parking space for every 3 units. So, as I indicated once before, just as in some other projects in the beginning, it might be tight, okay, but I will guarantee you, okay, that as that use continues, there will not be an impact on the street beyond that property for that project.
We'll see. We'll see. Also, I've been reading that the recycling program went from $1,275 a pickup to double that now for the next 3 months. Could I have an answer why?
Is there any way you want
Shared
to-
services working good?
That's not a shared service.
Well, it was part of the shared service agreement to go with this company.
No, it never was.
No, sir.
No, that's totally.
Okay.
We have a separate contractor that picks up recycling. The contract was set to start July. The day before the pickup, as mentioned at the last council meeting, he called and said, I'm not picking it up. So we had to go and find another vendor to pick it up, and that vendor is charging more money.
He just flat out said he wasn't gonna pick it up?
He just called me up and he said, I'm not coming. He said, my truck is broke. And I said, it's unacceptable, and I argued with him, but there was nothing I could do. What could I do? Go make him come? I couldn't.
Why did we go from a $1,275 contract to a $1,300 contract in the
Why
first
did you
place?
think it was $1,275?
That's what my understanding.
That's not correct. The $1,300 price that was quoted by Equipment Rental Services was for the new contract from July.
Right. What was the previous one with Waste Management?
About $1,275 a pickup. Maybe not less.
So why
That
did we?
contract was expiring. There was no way you were gonna continue that price.
That's not true.
They
Was
gave us
it-
a price
did they
for
ever get a
6
chance
months.
to bid on it?
Yes, they gave us a price for 6 months of $26,000 and change.
Which turned out to be
28
cheaper.
actually.
Yeah, it turned out to be cheaper than.
Yes, but it was over the bid threshold and could not be awarded because it would violate local public contract law. So we couldn't award that anyway, even if we wanted to. Most of the council didn't want to because it was double the amount of the other quote. But at the time, the council noted the other quote guy was gonna call me up the day before and say, I'm not coming.
Can I just, I don't think this is being told, excuse me, Lou, I'll give the floor to you. I don't think this is being told to the
I
citizens
wasn't
accurately.
finished yet, though.
Okay, well, let me know when you finish, because I'd like to
Okay.
correct a couple things.
I just want to say that I'm answering your questions with an answer like a fact, because I have the documents to back it up or something. It's not my rendering of it, it's just the fact, okay? That's what I just wanted to say. I'm answering your question factually as I've been asked to do. Okay?
We negotiated a contract with Waste Management, they were the low bidder back in
We did not
2011.
negotiate the contract, we went out for public bid.
And we signed the contract with them, and the understanding was that it was gonna be a 3-year term with a 2-year extension, either in 1-year increments or 1 2-year increment. Well, lo and behold, comes to find out that there was no extension written to the agreement, although that was the understanding of both parties. Clerk, doing what she should have done, at the end of the agreement, the 3-year term, at the council's behest, went ahead and renewed for 1 year. Waste Management agreed. We now could, we did, we renewed for a year. I mean, I don't know, Waste Management picked up until, all right? So then what happened was, Councilwoman Tedisco, primarily, the Streets and Roads Chair, decided that we needed to cancel our contract with Waste Management, although I believe, just as we got that previous 1-year extension, we could have gotten another one. We went back to them and said, no, we want to do 6 months. I was against that. They then gave us a proposal that was eerily similar to what we got from Regional. So we took it as, and I'll be honest, I took it at the same time as they're telling us to go take a walk. Actually, I think what they were doing was giving us an indication of where the market had gone, okay? So we go, we bid it out, and we get this company, Equipment Rental. They were affiliated with a company that had the contract previously. Councilman Sluka and I wanted that bid out in 2011. As a result of bidding that out, wanting that bid out, we came under a tremendous amount of pressure from public officials here in Borough Hall, the previous mayor and the previous borough attorney. That was very suspicious. Back then, Democrats and Republicans used to work together. I called Councilman Sluka at home. I said, you getting phone calls? You starting to feel funny? He said, you know, if we don't bid this out, I'm going to make a scene. And I said, you know, I'm going to do that too. Go to find out, and they all knew this. Go to find out, we're now getting a company that's related to those same people we came under pressure to do. Okay, so this was fishy from the beginning. They bid $1,300 and they didn't show up. And we knew there was a red flag. Okay? So now we go ahead, we get Galuso, bails us out. They go ahead, they do the best job they could. It wasn't the greatest, but they did the best job they could. $1,300 at a loss. We then have to bid this out. We made another mistake. We thought we had to bid it out for a short enough period so we could come under the bid threshold. Well, come to find out, when I finally get the documents, we approved it as an emergency contract. We didn't have to bid it out for a long period. So, Mr. Bonfanti, this is mistake upon negligence, upon recklessness, okay? And we are paying $2,600 a pickup. Now, come October 29th, who's gonna pick up your recycling? I don't know the answer to that. And neither does anyone up here. This is a disaster. And this was done to sync our contract up with Fanwood, period.
A few things have to be corrected, but Mayor, just procedurally, we're having a lot of back and forth during public comment, and I think that procedurally, that should be cleaned up. So, maybe, does Mr. Bonfanti have any other questions? I can address them all at once.
My other comment was, I was very disturbed about the way the last council meeting went. I think it was a disgrace to the people of this town, the way the council acted, and it just, they didn't listen to the people, and I think it was disgusting. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I just have a couple items to correct there. The reason why, at the end of this contract with Waste Management that ended the end of June, we went for a 6-month deal, was to put ourselves on the calendar year. That was something that was always hindering us when we bid recycling, because bidding it midway through the year, we needed to specify that pickup would be on Thursdays. Well, that naturally would limit prospective vendors, one would think, because we are limiting when we allow them to pick up. So the idea was to put us on the calendar year. Also, there was discussion during Streets and Roads committee meetings about looking at how we do recycling. And basically, we wanted to make sure we were in a position where we're not necessarily going out for bid for 3 years with being in the middle of the year, where we would again run into that problem of Thursdays only, and also lock ourselves into how we did recycling. As Council President Neerstead pointed out when he was Streets and Roads Chair, as you know, we have a paperboard factory, paperboard plant here in Garwood, and they are willing to take our paper and our cardboard and pay us for it. So that's something we wanted to explore more, and not necessarily sink us, put ourselves in a position where we would be stuck, single stream with everything for, say, 3 years as the usual contract would go. So just to clear that up. And as far as the emergency contract that we're in with Regional right now, I believe the reason why we can't take that until the end of the year is because that would be circumventing the bid process. Is that correct? Ms. Ariema?
Yeah, we
Now, why don't I answer that?
Okay.
The reason why it's an emergency now and wasn't an emergency before, which allowed us to go over the bid threshold, is you can't have a contract expire and then use the fact that the contract is expired and you don't have a new contract as an emergency. That would be that would be circumventing the local public contracts law, but you can have an emergency where you have contracted for somebody, and then that person breaches the contract, and it would be a detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, not to declare an emergency and then allow the bid threshold to be exceeded. So what, the bid threshold could be exceeded under the emergency exception because of the breach of contract, and it could only be awarded for the period of time that allows us to put bids together to comply with the local public contract law requirement, which is 60 days prior to the receipt of bids. So this contract, the emergency contract, goes through, I think it's the end of October, because that was the estimated date when we would be able to put together an appropriate bid package and then bid it, and then have the required time period go by in order that recycling could continue. So that's the only reason why it's an emergency now. It wasn't an emergency, say, a month ago. I don't know, did I answer whatever the question was?
And Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, I know the word irresponsible is thrown out there. This is a very unfortunate situation, but it's not a matter of being irresponsible. Rich, equipment rental, when we put out the request for bids, okay, they came in under the threshold. Did we look at it? Sure, we all looked at it, because we know, as Mr. Matthews indicated, we know the game that gets played. You look at it and you realize, okay, they're under the threshold. Why are they under the threshold? Because they know that then is not going to be put out to bid, so they get the award. But we looked at it and said, they know this is only going to be a 6-month contract. And I sat there, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I sat there and said, they're probably doing it because they want to get in on our good side. And when we put out for bid in next year, that, they want us to remember that. So I said, okay, so they're probably undercutting right now, but hey, it's under the threshold, it saves the borough money, and we'll see what happens in the next contract. The second reason was that we've worked with them previously. They picked up the bulk in town the past 2 years, and they've come each time. They haven't failed. They haven't called the day before and said, we're not picking it up. We had no reason at all to suspect that suddenly out of the blue, they're going to call and say, I'll pick it up. So we thought we had a good track record with them. And the third was simply the fact that they did agree to the 6-month time period. As I mentioned previously, recycling is changing so much. I'm sure you know about, China isn't accepting what the United States used to send over there, because we were mixing in so much material that can't be recycled. That they called it the China Wall, I think, or something, the Great Wall of China, they called it. Because suddenly they put a stop in the containers that they were sending over here filled with goods, into which we were sending back raw material to be recycled, they wouldn't take anymore. So the markets just went crazy. When we spoke to other communities, we found out that they were only making money off of paper and metal. Everything else was a loss. And some towns are actually taking recycling. They were either A, taking it to the incinerator, or B, if you go out west, there are canyons that are filled with our recyclable materials that the market couldn't absorb. So when Councilor Matthew indicates who we're going to hire, what's going to happen to recycling in October, do I know who's going to get it? Absolutely not. I have no idea. We can put it out to bid and find out. Do I know what the price will be? No, I don't know. I have any idea. But what I will say to you is, it is changing considerably. And, America still produces more garbage per capita than anybody else in the world. And so, yeah, it's a volatile market, and your recycling will certainly be picked up come November. I don't know by whom, and that's not irresponsible. That's the way the contracts work, and what gets put out to bid, we'll see who submits.
Mayor, if I could just add to that, getting back following, and I'm glad you brought this up, Bill, about responsibility. There were discrepancies about this equipment rental company from the beginning. It was reported in the Westfield Leader that it was a New York corporation based in Staten Island. I then received a contract that said it was a New Jersey corporation based on Perth Amboy. I have the email. I will release it to the press and the public. I brought this to Councilwoman Tedisco's attention, She emails back to me and says that makes no difference. It was reported in the Westfield Leader that it was owned by the son of the principal at Great Northern Recycling, okay? Whoever gave that information backed off. I then brought this to Councilwoman Tedisco's attention, and she said to me, and I quote, "It's none of our business what their relationship is." Okay? That's irresponsible. All right? There were red flags at this from the beginning. My mother and my wife drove out to the corporate headquarters in Staten Island, and it was a single-family ranch house. Okay? This thing stunk to high heaven. And to say that we did a discreet, one-day pickup with them 2 years in a row, and that merits doing a 6-month relationship with them is a bit rich. We did no diligence on this, and I'll go one better. We ignored red flags on this, and there's malfeasance and misfeasance here.
That's all we have.
Yeah, I mean, I just had something to add to this. Yes, we did use them in the past for our bulk, we never had an issue with them. We have no control over what happens in someone's business when they're about to come out to our town and pick up our recycling. As far as that house or whatever, you took your time to go drive out there and investigate. That's just the place where you have your address on record, just like I have my address on record for my business, which is my house. So it doesn't mean anything, okay? It just means that if you rent somewhere, you don't want your mail that is important from the state of New Jersey or the state of New York to go to where you rent, because what if you're not there anymore? And that's your place on record, and then you would have to constantly change that. So most responsible people will put their home down because that's where they live, and they know that they are guaranteed to get any information from the state about their license, about their business, about their livelihood. Again, I'll go on record as saying that we've done work with this company before. We had no reason to think that they would do this because they did have a good track record with us. And again, we have no control over what happens in somebody's business. If a truck breaks down, if something else happened, if, I don't know, maybe Waste Management got to these people and said that you're infringing on our stuff, who knows, So maybe that's why they walked away from it, okay? Or maybe the bid amount was just not enough, okay? But we're forced with the situation, and most of the council up here is dealing with it, okay? With the exception of one, okay? We're doing the work and we're trying to get this stuff organized so that the people's recycling does get picked up properly and on that day when it's actually, supposed to be picked up. So as far as, that person's house, that absolutely means nothing, because if you go on to the DCA website for my business, it comes up as 232 Hemlock Avenue.
And if I could just respond to that, Mayor, quickly, those were the kind of answers we got. That's the kind of councilman you have, asking those kind of questions, or basically making up those types of suppositions. Another thing is, I asked for the recycling contract with the new entity. It took me a while to get it. I had to email twice, and I had to email the borough attorney. I received an executed recycling contract that was executed on the day they breached. So it was dated July 8th, and they told Tina they weren't coming on July 8th.
I will
Guys,
say
this
on record,
thing
that's the day I signed
stinks.
it, not the day they signed
This
it.
thing stinks.
It always had the date I signed it. I was received in June, signed by them to me.
That's a coincidence. That's quite a coincidence.
Okay.
These are pretty strong allegations to be made
Yes,
here.
we're gonna be moving on. So is
I
there
mean-
anyone in the audience, any further discussion for the mayor and council?
Not of that.
Chief McCall, 119 Lowell Avenue. Who was also on the council with Mr. Martin on the laws? Because I brought up a month ago about the dumpster on Lowell Avenue. And-
I'm on there, Councilwoman Tarantino is as well.
Okay, are we starting to look into this? It's been there since October, November of 2014. It's disgusting. I mean, as I asked the last time, was summonses issued to the dumpster owner? As they were to residents with the snow removal this year, if over 3 inches, they got summonses, were they issued summonses?
If I may, Chief, do you have any comments on this topic?
I believe summonses were issued. I think he had the dumpster emptied at least once.
That's not-
And he has, as the best of my knowledge, he has renewed his dumpster permit. And he's in the 14-day process now on that one.
So 14
week.
days? they get a renewal for a dumpster in the street, and there is a driveway, no one's living in the house, it's been under construction, there's a truck parked, 2 trucks are parked there, one may move, they may be registered, fine. The other truck is there with garbage in front of it. Why can't this dumpster go in the driveway? It's not being rented.
Agreed, and that was strongly suggested.
And as I said, I'm not talking summonses for overweight, I'm talking summonses for the snow removal this past winter, when residents were getting summonses because they were not moving their cars off the street with 3 inches of snow.
What was that address again with the dumpster? I'm sorry.
It's on Willow Avenue, I'm 119, so.
Thank you.
I think we all agree with you, so it's a matter of just.
Right, I also talked to the chairman of the committee, we'll get a meeting together. Even if we are to change the law on it, that would still, it's an ordinance, so it'll take a month, basically. But, as far as the summonses, that was really a police question.
You know, it doesn't provide for what you want.
No,
The existing ordinance doesn't provide for what we call.
it
what
doesn't
has
like
to be
mandate that you have to put a dumpster in your driveway if you have it.
And then they can extend it.
They can't keep, the ordinance says you can keep renewing over and over and over.
Yeah, I drafted an ordinance about 2 years ago to change this, but it
But isn't
wasn't
it just
adopted, so I would
2
suggest that
weeks?
if the council is gonna look at it, look at the ordinance I drafted.
It's 2 weeks and then 2 weeks, isn't it, Chief? What is it?
2 weeks, keep going.
They can keep renewing over and over and over and over?
Yes, you got a summons because you did not read it.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't
My
And then you
mistake.
just,
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this any either, but Bob, I mean, none of us want to have dumpsters in the street. I mean, I don't think anybody sitting here wants to have that. And I think the argument was, and I don't have any answers, so maybe it's just ask it back to the committee there, but the argument that came back to me when I said the same thing that you said was construction. And construction can take months. So
Well, I proposed an ordinance that said
what was the answer?
that if you had a driveway and there wasn't any reason not to put the dumpster in the street, that you had to put it in the driveway. So, I mean, I would suggest that you take a look at the ordinance I drafted.
I would agree with that too. Okay.
I would agree with that at the time, there was some discussion, but I think.
I couldn't even tell you what year I drafted it, so I'm not absolutely sure, so who may have reviewed it, but
We'll make sure your
Yeah,
ordinance gets.
we're supposed to have a laws and license meeting next week anyway, so I will.
My next question, with the athletic field, who's the responsibility with the soccer field and with the turf and the cleaning of it? Is it under the baseball? Is it under the borough? Borough. Is there a machine that cleans the turf with the soccer field?
Is your machine? Yes.
And we purchased it?
No, we did not.
Well, we have the groomer.
We have,
Is that what-
go ahead, Lou knows more about it.
There is a groomer that came with the field, but that's just for grooming, that doesn't physically clean the field. I mean, what's exactly on the field, is it water bottles again, and things?
My other concern is if there's an injury and there's blood with the turf, what is going on with that?
Well, if there is an injury and if there is blood, there are hose bibs on the field, and there are hoses there, to wash it down. The groomer that's there does not sanitize or clean, it just fluffs up the.
And my other question was, I believe when I came, when this was gonna be, and the kids were gonna be open and the building was gonna be closed, the little boys are urinating behind the trees. I love when I open my back door and see these kids standing there.
And that's another item that laws and license actually is looking at, because we need to, in my opinion, mandate that if we rent the facility, that they have to rent the restrooms with it. Because right now, it's not mandatory that they do that. I think it should be mandatory, so that way the restrooms are definitely open at times when organizations are using it.
What are they?
Ms. McCall, just to add to that, we would greatly appreciate any other comments you have, because we discussed this previously, and Mr. Petrozelli actually has a list, okay, of items that we brought up that we know we have to amend. And what we decided early on was we weren't gonna amend the ordinance every month. That end of the year, when we have one season, 1 year I'll call it, we are then gonna put forth amendments. You're absolutely right. So anything else that you have that you've noticed, since you're right there, please let us know, and we will amend as we can. We are aware of
Coach's
that.
mouth?
Yeah, and the people who litter, and, yeah, I've seen it out.
I mean, I almost literally went over there on a Sunday afternoon and punched the coach out. Because the mouth was atrocious, and these are not.
No. They
I
have no
mean, now what
right.
I'm hearing in my backyard, inside my house, I gotta hear this coach yelling and screaming. I only wish Mr. Alamonte was here.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll sign that for Joe Sarno's, Society of 11, first floor. To go to piggyback on that, are the hoses actually working at the park? And there's a reason I'm asking, only because the water fountains don't work at
The
all.
water fountain is on a punch list for the contractor to come back and fix, but yes, the hoses work.
The hoses do work too? All right, because I know that I was there on a Saturday, and, yeah, the bathroom was closed, and I was out on the run, so I had to go over to Unami. Not a big deal, but, just something to take notice of. The bathroom's closed and the water fountain's not working.
Well, the bathrooms were always previously closed unless there was someone there, for baseball or something like that. But that's why we're looking at this ordinance again, just so that, when there's a renter there, we're more concerned for the renter to have use of the bathrooms as well.
Okay, I mean, you would think like the park would have something open up. I mean, down the road, no?
I mean, me personally, I would not want the bathroom open for any person to just walk in there. What if there's a homeless guy standing there and, some small kid walks in?
True, I understand, but that could happen at Unami Park, right?
It does.
And I don't want that happening either, but at the same time, it should be open for the public.
So you have to choose then, Mr. Sarno, do you want pedophiles? Do
don't
you
think
want
it's-
garbage?
I
It's right across Unami Park, okay? And what I'm saying to you, and I apologize if that upset everyone, if you want to laugh at me, if it happens to your child, you won't laugh.
That's pretty vicious.
What I'm saying to you is that, what I'm saying is that we need to take a step back and recognize that something can happen to any one of us. And that we have to try, as government up here, we try to protect the most innocent, okay? And I also had advocated at the beginning about opening up the bathroom. I thought it made a lot of sense. Until I found out what actually was on over in that park. And that was when I started to think, well, maybe it doesn't make sense. So, Joe, I don't have an answer, okay? I'm not saying right now if the ordinance gets proposed, I'm for it or against it, but what I'm saying is that, is it convenient? Yes. Are there some cons? Yeah,
There are cons.
So we can think about it. I'm not jumping to an answer. That's all I'm saying.
I understand the cons of that, but I mean, I look at the amount of time people are there using the park. The police are always there. There's a presence there. I mean, I've been there even at night running through. I've seen them shut down the lights, close the bathrooms. They're always checking it. Even in Unami Park, the county police will always drive through. They're very, very diligent about how they do it, and just something to look forward to. Put it back on the table.
Absolutely.
So I would like to use the bathroom and have a glass of water. But anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
John Lacy, 29 Third Avenue, Garwood, I'll sign it. I was here last week, and I came to because I wasn't gonna say anything, but question just raised. You had a right to vote on the exemption of taxes for that house, and I mean, one of the big arguments last week was we needed money, and we wanted to save money. What was wrong with getting some money? I'm a little confused here.
A state municipality can't charge federal action for taxes. You can't do that.
I don't think
You
any.
can't charge the National Guard, you can't charge the Army, you can't charge, municipality cannot charge state or federal government action.
Well then, I mean, do we have any capability of maybe not having it, or maybe changing, or getting something else in it, that we could get some money out of it? I mean, was that our only option?
Well.
We had no other options?
I-
I'm just confused here.
Hey, if you're asking a legal question, we are getting some money out of it. There's a tax exemption, there's also payment in lieu of taxes. I didn't know we were gonna discuss this tonight, or I would tell you what the amount is, but I don't know it at the top of my head. So there's a tax exemption, payment in lieu of taxes.
30,000.
Could was it required that the council permit this facility to be there? No. But the question is, well, first of all, there were no taxes being collected on the property previously because there was a religious exemption for the school, or a school exemption for the school, I guess I should say. And then there was a fair amount of controversy over a period of probably 5 or 6 years about what could be or would be permitted to go in there. I don't know whether you had anything to do with it, but there was somebody who made an application for what was called a luxury apartment complex. That received a fairly controversial reception from the municipality, and there were a number of other proposals. So my understanding is that the council had determined that of the alternatives, which would have involved a number of different possibilities of the alternatives, including the possibility of a builder's remedy lawsuit, that this was a better alternative than what some of the other alternatives could have been.
Was there a time frame that we had to do this in?
Well, there was, but there was a time frame that it had to be done in, yes. Was there a time frame? Was it required to approve of it? No. But if it was to be approved, it was a time limit.
Yeah, we have,
My plan is, we have so little land. I mean, we're not a big community. And it's just give away that much land for nothing.
We didn't own
And
it.
then-
We didn't own it.
I know, but you had, what was something? Yeah. I just came up with mine.
Yeah, Mr.
Because we had such an argument over about money, needing money last time. And, it was just, and then we have this here where we're losing thousands. We are. Plus, we have other problems with parking and everything else. But anyway, just a comment.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just, I understand what you're saying, but I think we're kind of talking apples and oranges. What I mean by that is, it was an application for the planning board, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the planning board actually, didn't the board deny that the luxury housing that was proposed there?
Yes.
I think it was denied for a number of reasons. But beyond that, what the planning board thought at the time of the hearing, I'm sorry, is there a question out there?
No, I just feel that if you're on the planning board, you know you voted.
What was thought at the time, it was providing another type of housing for residents. We didn't have that type of housing. And that was the thought process behind it. It was already tax exempt. We were going to provide for another type of housing we didn't have. Obviously, no children would come out of the site, so there'd be nothing in terms of additional educational costs. And that was the thought process behind it, providing another type of housing for residents. It wasn't looked upon as losing anything because there were no taxes coming off it anyway. We didn't own it. I don't think we certainly were in the process of going to real estate and buying it. So I understand what you're saying, but I really think it's two different things.
Right, but I don't understand saying, we weren't getting any taxes from it before, so we don't need to get taxes. I don't see that as an argument to do something like that, to be honest with you. If we had thousands of acres, okay, fine, but we don't. That's just my opinion.
Mayor, if I may comment what Mr. Lees has done. Are you all set?
No, I'll wait till you come with something like that or something.
Okay,
Because
well,
that's one of the
that's
things
all.
I objected to last week. We
Right.
came up and we gave a lot of things in that, and then you guys made comments, but we had no chance to rebuttal you. And that seemed fair, because you, especially on one of mine, I wanted to rebuttal you, but I had no chance to do it. And you made a fairly decent argument, but not well enough. So we had no rebuttal. So, no, I'm not ready to give up the mic tonight.
Okay, I'm not the mayor, I don't run the meeting, but
I understand.
obviously, public meetings have some kind of
I'm
procedure.
strictly making it as a comment.
And sir, I know we've spoken about the senior housing on Third Avenue as I live
If I
on the
may,
city.
Councilman, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay. I know we've spoken about this in the past as well. And as someone who lives 2 blocks away from that project, the senior housing project, I'm really not a big fan of it. I'm not a fan of the fact that we only get $30,000 a year. I'm not a fan of the fact that it may add to our parking issue on those streets. However, one of the reasons why I feel a little bit more comfortable with it is it does help us on our Council on Affordable Housing obligation, which is what Mr. Renaud was speaking about. basically, if we do not provide a certain number of affordable homes, we may be hit with a builder's remedy lawsuit, which could cost the town, $1 million, who knows, a lot of money. And so that helps with that aspect. And I think the other point that Council President Nearset was making about adding children to the school system, I think it's important to note that every child going through the school system, I don't have the exact number, but it's in around at least $10,000 to educate a child. So just, if we add children to the school, we have to keep in mind that that's an additional cost there to provide that service. So again, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I see some positive with the negative that I also agree with.
And if I may have some final words, it does serve its purpose for our seniors. The growing population in the United States, the biggest growing population is over 80 years old. I think it's a well-built building at this point.
Excuse me, Mayor, I just had one other thing, because I was actually on the planning board when that came in. Okay, we actually had the planning board meeting over at the school, and most of the residents who live in the area were opposed to, the luxury building that was going to be built. A lot of people spoke about, why can't we just put two-family homes there? Why can't we have single-family homes? Again, when it comes down to the school aspect, it costs roughly, probably more than $10,000 per child, plus our school is a little bit busting at the seams, and we really didn't have the room if someone wanted to build maybe 7 or 8 houses there, possibly 2 families. There was also talk about, well, why don't we just make it a park, which was a great idea. Well, government pays for parks. So you really don't get anything out of a park other than, a nice area. So this was the better, plan to actually come across us, for us to have a senior housing building come in and, again, take care of some of the color rules, that were coming up.
It's awful nice of the family to be so considerate of senior citizens. It's too bad Union, Springfield, all the other ones are just considerate. Doesn't see why, we're not the biggest. That's my point. So, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience?
I'll sign afterwards.
Thank you.
But good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the Council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Ave. Just a couple of items as all this discussion was going on. The threshold, I was at a county meeting, the state somehow now is increasing the threshold to $36,000. There's some caveats that go
You have to have a
along with that.
QPA,
Is that what it is?
Yep. Qualified Purchasing Agent.
Well, what do we have?
We do not have a QPA. You have to have a person who either has to be hired or paid, or somebody has to pass the test, take the courses, and so forth.
I thought that came up 5, 6 years ago about purchasing it.
I don't.
Okay, oh, you don't have.
I don't,
We don't.
my memory is not such that I can tell you whether we ever discussed that.
All right, I attended the meetings and the 6-month plan, pushing it back to December. I don't see that being synced up with Family, as one of the council people said. Only because Family doesn't have a recycling contract, they have a recycling center. They will be getting rid of it possibly, because I talked to Mayor Marr over there, but right now they have a recycling center, so it wasn't that Guard would want to sync up with Family. I don't see the reasoning behind that. As to another councilman saying that, companies use their home addresses, well, I guess on occasion they do, but I'll tell you, I worked for a bunch of companies and I did a lot of contractual work and legal documents, and really the owners want to be having the corporate address for their address, and that way any important documentation goes to the corporate address. Something that didn't sound right there. And I guess, and what was interesting, and I have to comment on this, was this bonding of $365,000. I'll tell you, it looked like a game of bluff here. I don't know what went on. I know we only have 4 people here, and 1 vote no, and that's it, it's out. However, Councilman Matthew actually did vote no to tabling it, offering you guys, I guess, to look at it and possibly vote on it, but you passed on that, and I don't know what went on. But from attending these meetings, Councilman Matthew basically votes every time for the street bonding. I've never heard him vote no on that. I've heard him vote no, but I've never heard him vote no on that. And and for some reason to back down, and maybe there's no vote on tabling, not tabling, you know, kind of opened the door for you, but you passed on it, and now you pushed it back. And I don't know, it was a strange, that was a strange situation that it just, we went through. But, and the last issue, and this I really did want to talk, because I brought this issue up many times before, and here we are, we just went through a very stressful situation with Fred Corbin. I guess his last day must be the end of this month, so it's imminent. But we're sitting here, and we're talking about cost savings, and I brought this issue up about Councilman Petrozelli's health benefits, time and time again, and other residents have brought this up also. And yes, you circled the wagon, you said it's legal. However, I'm suggesting, here, if you want to lead by example, then get together, talk about it internally somehow, have Lou maybe just cover himself. Is that possible for health benefits to cover just this part-time person? And so it would reduce the cost drastically to what, I don't know, 10,000, 12,000, that's what I was saying all along. So I mean, I asked you, Lou, I mean, if you guys can at least pressure him. At what time, Mayor, you said you were going to talk to him, I don't know what came of that. However, we're looking at something that lead by example here. You created such a turmoil with residents, and it's a large faction. It's not just one or two people, but there was a large faction that came out these many meetings, and I'll tell you, that's a red flag indicator. And I think if you want to lead by example, maybe we should address what this one gorilla in the room is, and that's Lou Petrozelli's health benefits. So look into it if you can. Just have him cover just himself, which is fine. You know, everybody maybe doesn't want to have any health benefits, but I'll allow Lou to have health benefits and to lower the cost. So this is my recommendation. Please, all of you, I mean, seriously, think about it instead of circling the wagons. I think if you really do care about cost savings, then maybe you should do something internally here in the governing body. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could comment on the bond ordinance.
Okay.
I just want to bring that up and respond to that, Mr. Patterson, since I brought it up in workshop, and I was the one that motioned to table it. I agree. I know the councilman's track record with DOT projects. However, this also had a sidewalk and tree repair program, and so that was the reason why I wanted to ask everyone ahead of time during the workshop whether or not we would support it. And I think it's a real shame that this project is now delayed 2 weeks because there was not the transparency of what the vote may look like tonight. Everyone else up here was willing to share with the public what our vote would be. I just think it's a shame that now we have to wait. That's all.
Excuse me, if I can just respond to that. The transparency. Bottom line is, two people decide not to show up to a council meeting, and I get browbeaten over what my vote is. I love it, okay? Show up to the council meeting, okay? And you also could have sent me an email or given me a phone call instead of pulling this thing. I'll vote the way it is that I'm gonna go ahead and vote. All right, but talk to Martin and Tarantino over there. All right, have them show up to the meeting next time. This is unbelievable. You're not responsible for anything.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just got one comment. It's the flag over at Kennedy Plaza. When they lower the flag to half-mast, they should lower the state flag also. State flag is up all the way. The United States flag is down at half-mast. And you lower one, you lower the other one. I don't know why somebody didn't pick that up, but it's been that way for at least a week.
Thank you.
Betty Maloney, 451 Pine Avenue. I just have a couple things. We passed the DPW. I'm not against shared services, but I am against not knowing what we're getting into. And tonight, I kind of get this feeling that there's just another thing. We mentioned the recycling. And one of the big things that the Fanwood mayor said is she wanted to share in our recycling. How are they gonna share? Are they gonna pay for part of this cost? What is the plan? And this is why I didn't want the DPW decision to go forward until we had everything ironed out. We jumped into something without having all the facts. And I don't really need a comment, I just wanted to make that comment. The second thing is I did email everyone before the meeting because I wasn't able to come. And I did hear back from you, Mayor Longoria. one of the, I think we need to make our town really nice. We are in between Westfield and Cranford, their towns look wonderful. And as I ride up our business section, I see a whole bunch of weeds. Last year, there were summonses given out to homeowners if their lawn wasn't cut. And I don't know who's responsible for those weeds. Is it the business person in that building? For example, Precision Press, there's a new owner, he took care of all those weeds. Even in front of Borough Hall. It's disgraceful. This should be nice. This should be our nicest part. The other thing that drives me nuts are the flag poles going under the underpass. They're half in, they're half out. I've been in business. I would never let anyone get away with that without doing it correctly. So why did we not go back to those people that installed those and made them make it perfect? We paid for it. Why isn't it? That's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the last one. What is it?
About the down flag.
Well, you mean the one that's missing?
No.
Which one?
If you look under the underpass, some of the bottom parts, the cement part, they're
Oh,
half up,
base.
half out, not flat on the ground.
Mayor, if I may? Okay. The first part about recycling, Fanwood may or may not join us with recycling. Ultimately, that would be, the decision of both towns and how we bid it. They can be bid as an alternate. We'll see if they want to link up with us or don't. They would be responsible for paying for their homes, of course. We're not going to be paying for Fanwood to get recycling picked up. The weeds question was a very good one. Weeds in front of businesses, yes, they are their responsibility, but weeds on town property or around town trees in front of Borough Hall here, that is the responsibility of our DPW. And then the flagpole matter, thank you for bringing that to my attention about the ones that are seeming like half up, half down. That's something I'll address with the Streets and Roads Committee. But the one that's been missing is something the Streets and Roads Committee has put out emails for months now to get back up. So that is definitely on our radar. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Are there any resolutions anyone wants to leave from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt consent agenda as presented?
So moved, Mayor?
Second?
Roll call, please, Ms. Ariano.
Councilman Matthew?
Aye.
Councilman Traffickelli?
Aye.
Councilman Disco?
Aye.
And Council President Mearsden?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any new business that mayor and council may have this evening? Hearing none, Ms. Ariano, please read the payment of the claims resolution.
Be it resolved that the following payment as approved be and the same are hereby ordered paid when properly signed and verified. And the payment of payrolls as listed hereby confirmed and ratified.
I have a motion to adopt payment of claims.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. Ariano.
Councilman Matthew?
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Aye.
Councilman Disco?
Aye.
And Council President Mearsden?
Yes.
Thank you. The regular meeting of the mayor and council will be held on Tuesday, August 11th, 2015, in council chambers at 7:15. Workshop to start at 7 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?